Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second in a series of customer webinars from NAVTOR. Everything we're doing here is aiming to spread knowledge, but also to ensure that everyone is able to gain the maximum value from the products and services out in the marketplace. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope today will be really useful. This is the second, as I say, in the series. It's called Are You Seeing the Full Potential of NAVTOR? And today we will go through certain items. So I'll take you to an agenda now. The agenda for today is we're going to take a brief message with our CCO, Borge Hedlund. Then we're going to move on to look at NavStation configuration and fundamentals. Following that, we're going to look at some modules within NavStation. Now, this won't be all encompassing because NavStation is a vast product covering vast areas. So we're going to look and be very refined about what we're looking at today. And following that, and all the way through this session, we'd love for you to interact and send in questions. So we will take a dedicated Q&A at the end, but if we see questions coming up throughout, we'll look to try and answer them as we go through. So without further ado, I'll pass you across to our Chief Commercial Officer, Borge Hedlund.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar in new offices. We have just moved to the first skyscraper in Egersund, which is 8 stories high. So it's we are now looking out of over the beautiful city of Egersund. So thanks for joining this webinar, and thanks for putting your trust in NAVTOR as your partner in e-navigation. When we started NAVTOR in 2011, our aim was to help navigators and commercial shipping companies with easy access, updating and management of digital charts and publications. And when we introduced Pay As You Sail from the beginning, that was a great step to achieve seamless and automatic update of ENC. Later on, we have built a complete e-navigation concept, an ecosystem with Navbox, enabling automatic and seamless distribution of ENCs into ECDIS. And also we have developed NavStation, which was the first digital chart table, which will be the focus on today's webinar. I also want to share a small fun fact that NAVTOR, the name NAVTOR, is the first 3 letters and the last 3 letters of the word navigator, because we put the navigator in center when we develop our products and services. So NavStation was developed together with 12 Norwegian shipping companies and a vetting inspector. And the idea was to make a digital chart table where we integrate all navigational information into one single platform, for the navigator to have everything in one single place, to make it easy for the navigator to plan and to execute a safe and compliant route. And all this data in NavStation is updated and licensed automatically. So there's no need for the navigator to start looking for permits and updates. Every time he's standing in front of the NavStation, it is updated. And today there is a lot of shipping companies using NavStation, and the feedback we get is that it is intuitive and user-friendly to use. And even more important, it makes them compliant, meaning they do not experience any issues with port stay control or vetting inspectors. Over the years, we have grown a lot when it comes to number of products and services. And that means that today we are a one-stop shop, so a total supplier of all navigational products and services. Our promise to you is that NAVTOR shall continue to be the true leader when it comes to e-navigation, being superior when it comes to technology, functionality, reliability, quality, and also customer service and support. So thanks again for putting your trust in NAVTOR. Thanks for attending this seminar. And I'm looking forward to hopefully to see you again when the work is back to normal, or the new normal, as they call it. And I also urge you to ask questions as you go along the seminar. So thanks again.
Thank you very much, Børge. That's very kind. And as Børge says, the message really to take away from this is that everything we do at NAVTOR is based around the navigator, but it's based around adding value to shipping companies and ships in general. I'm unapologetically going to go back to a slide we used last webinar, and the reason for this is that it ties together everything we do in what we call our e-navigation concept, or our ecosystem. So I'm going to move across to the presentation briefly, just to show what we mean by that. So our ecosystem is based upon a concept, shall we say. And the concept is that we want everything to be seamless on board. As Børge has just said, everything constantly up to date and seamless. So if we look at the slide in front of us, everything we do runs from a database ashore and is fed on board to a nav box, and nav box being the only piece of hardware we actually put on board, which enables a full ship to shore and shore to ship communication and data flow. So once the data is in the nav box, what happens then? Well, it flows from the nav box, obviously, to front of bridge. What we're finding is traditionally this was done via a USB stick to transmit the data to front of bridge. However, we're seeing a lot more because we've moved to have our nav box as a registered gateway with a certification about it. It means that there's more trust in companies to put the nav box directly connected from the LAN of the vessel through to the protected LAN of the Ectis. So that's what we've done. We see the flow of information to front of bridge, but also that information flow goes to the back of the bridge to, we're showing here, the NavStation. This can, of course, be a gigapad, as we're showing, or it could be a normal computer set up at the back of bridge, an admin PC, or a dedicated planning station. From those two, the data will flow obviously back, and there's a flow of information from the back of bridge to the front of bridge, and also back ashore, updating and making sure all the products that may have just been asked for are all licensed and available for use. This will obviously update the database ashore. Last time, in our last webinar, we went through the concept ashore, and this is Nav Tracker. It's also used on board vessel, but we specifically designed it for use on shore. So on shore, what you have is full access for the ship manager, and that's where we get the same data and the same information displayed and being available ashore as on board, which makes sure that everyone is in the same loop. So today our concentration is on NavStation. And as you see here, we're talking about the NavStation desktop, and we are displaying it with a large format touchscreen. The reason being that the original concept was this is to replace the original, the traditional chart table. And the chart table gives an incredible view of the situation forward and what you're to expect. Well, that is what we're trying to replicate. So this is showing in this case, a 55-inch touch screen. So the system is designed to work with the touchscreen functionality. And what we do is we layer data on top. We obviously start with that first layer being the ENC, the Electronic Navigational Chart layer. So it's exactly the same as you'll see on your Ectis. You can make your NavStation look identical. Layered above that is the Admiralty information overlay, of which, of course, you can route plan using this information. And we'll discuss some of this today. We overlay Admiralty digital publications, the AENP, which obviously is the electronic version of the nautical publications, the sailing directions. A newer layer is a layer called e-publications. So this is such titles as IMO and others, which we make available within the NavStation software. And the critical importance here is that we have one piece of software and it works seamlessly with everything else aboard. Our partners, Weather News International, allow us to offer weather forecasting with the weather overlay layer. Navarro Warnings are, which will be demonstrated today, are another layer which are displayed and able to be interrogated. A new product is environmental regulations. This will come in a later webinar, and it's looking at making sure that vessels stay within regulations, and it's an information tool about regulations globally. Passage planning here shows it sits almost at the top, and the reason it sits at the top is it delves down and harvests the other layers within NavStation, allowing the data to be used in a full digital table. So in a replication of the paper, but taking it rather on, it allows all that information to be used in the formulation of a mandated passage plan. One other we're showing here is Maneuvering Assistant, which is a brand new product. It's not actually released to market yet, but that will form a part of a later webinar. And at the top, again, it's another new product which is just about to be released, which is weather routing, optimal ship routing, again with our partner Weather News International. Today's concentration, though, will be on the following. So we're looking at the NavStation desktop and fundamentals. We're looking at the ENCs. We'll discuss the AIO layer, route planning, ADP, Admiralty Electronic Nautical Publications, the e-publication reader, and finally, Navarro Warnings. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand across to my colleague, Stephen Richards, who will go take us through configuration and fundamentals of NavStation.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Stephen Richards. I'm an area sales manager for NAVTOR. I have been for the last 5 years. I mainly focus on the Benelux and European markets. You may know me from earlier webinar installments as of 2 weeks ago. So it's pleasure to be here again. And I will just switch to my desktop now and go through some of the basic setup and functions for NAVTOR here. So this here's my NavStation desktop. This is how the software opens. As Richard said, it can be on the large touch screen, and it's designed for touch functionality, but a lot of the times it is actually just installed onto a normal backup bridge PC. If you have a desktop and say one of these is grayed out, that means that there's a function in there, but you're not subscribing to it, for example. Or so you can see here that the route optimization is blacked out because that's not quite available yet, but that's shortly going to be available. And so I'll just go through the desktop function. I'll go down to the system side here. So there is a user manual here. I'm not going to open that, but it's a PDF document. So if there's any, if you've got the software installed and you're wanting to know how to do it, you can open that document. It's 200 pages, but it's a PDF. So you've got a great search function in there. So you can start off with any questions with this one. I think if you remember from last week, there was a subscription certificate in NavTracker. Quite often Port State will want to actually see, after that certificate, they'll want to see the actual status of their ADPs. So you can come into here, click on the status report, and this document here will load up with which areas you've got loaded and licensed, and when it's updated to as well. So it's just good to know that that's there. These log things are our technical guys can help with support and things. So if we go onto the configure section here, so one part of the business that we do, which may not be that visible for you guys, is we actually produce a software development kit, which many ECDIS manufacturers actually use. So it's the way they build around their ECDIS. So they use, we're the core of certain ECDIS brands. So you'll notice, while we always say NavStation is not to take place of an ECDIS, it's to use in conjunction with an ECDIS, you'll notice a lot of the functionalities are the same. And so you'll be pretty familiar with some of these here. So there's obviously the chart portrayal settings. whatever settings you have on your main ECDIS on board, I'd assume that you'd have the same here. So you can set your shallow contours, safety, depth contours, and everything like this. I can have it in S52 standard or international. Chart objectives, you know, when you're doing passage planning, certain areas have quite a lot of information in there. So we can turn that down to take less information to do certain things or back up to full. If I click on vessel particulars here, yeah, this one here, very important for when we get into the passage planning section. So you can put in the vessel's length and breadth. The displacement here helps with the squat calculation and block coefficient. If I come down into the layers here, I can turn the Admiralty information overlay on here, NavText information. So these are additional layers you can turn on and off, and that's back to what Richard was saying, and the image of the layered information. You can turn the information on and off as you require it, and to make sure that your screen's not massively cluttered or anything like that. AIS, I don't have an AIS feed coming into my PC, but this is where you can configure the AIS information that's coming in. You can look at past track. So this feeds back to if you have a nav box on board, which we definitely always recommend, and the AIS positions coming into the NavStation. Passage planning, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. This will be delved into deeper for the passage planning section, but these are some default values for your passage plan and data collection. So this is back to what Richard was saying with the automatic harvesting of information. So this is based on each waypoint. How far away from each waypoint do I want to pick up the nav area warnings, for example, or the AIO information? My ports database here. So this is a compiled list that that happens from my passage planning again, or you can put it in before passage planning. If I click on Houston, it saves my details here. I won't go into too much. We are working on incorporating IHS data into this, so that should be later this year. I hope we'll have a more detailed port information there. There are some system settings here. So much like you would get on the ECDIS, I can change to night or dusk vision for my NavStation software. Custom resolution, these kind of things. There's UI, we can do some settings in there. Units and dates, depending on where you are in the world, we've got the metric or imperial measurements here. You can do wind speeds at meters per second, knots, or kilometers per hour. So yeah, there's quite a few configuration settings here. So that's kind of the basics, and as I said, you're probably quite familiar with ECDIS settings, so it's all very, very much similar to that one there. I'll just click over into the chart section. We always mention ENCs is the base layer, and I will just reiterate that when this is on board, you don't need to pay extra for chart licenses. So whatever's installed onto your vessel and license, you get ENCs here. So this is all quite good, and it works much like an ECDIS. I can pan across by left mouse clicking and dragging. I can use the scroll bar to go in. If I right click on something on here, I can interrogate the information. So there's object information, and I can get the details here, or if I right click here, I can get the chart information as well. So yeah, got that information here. We do have a electronic range and bearing lines here. So I can actually come and set the origin, fix ERBs, and I can do a second one as well. So you can see I can set, yeah, 2 range and bearing lines. I messed up that second one. Yeah, so that's the chart section. And then I will just go into, so just with the basic NavStation software, you do get route planning. The passage planning, which will be more detailed, creating a detailed document, will be, it's a separate product. It's an additional module within NavStation, and we'll go into more detail in that. But in terms of the route planning, one of the pretty cool functions is we can look at a split screen here, and I can start creating a route by clicking on new. I'll just name it route 5. And then I just need to start left mouse clicking here. If I start going through the channel, I will just move this one here so we can see it. So the idea with the split screen is you can be looking at on this one, making sure you're not going the opposite way down a traffic separation scheme here, and you keep the overview on the left-hand side there. So it's you can be putting in your route here. I'll just click save for now. The other thing you can do in terms of with the route is you can actually import an Ectus route. So if you have one from your Ectus, you can. I just have all the functions here because I've got a demo version. If you have a vessel with a single Ectus, you only have an option for a single Ectus. So yeah, I can import a route here, and it will automatically fill in to my my NavStation here. So if I just, for example, go, this is my route, you can see it's already a route that I've used, and I can pull this one in, and then yeah, start looking at the information. So that's about it from me. I'm going to pass back over to Richard, and he's going to go into more of the actual modules. So thank you very much. I'll stick around I'll be around at the end of this as well, answering questions. So make sure you send your questions in now, and we'll go through them.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So as Stephen has discussed, and I'm not going to labour the point, our NavStation is built upon what we describe as the SDK, the software development kit, and that is because we wanted the same functionality to be available to navigators as they find on their Ectus. So it allows you to replicate the environment you use to navigate on a day-to-day basis in your backup bridge environment. There's a comfort, but also there's an ability to move seamlessly between the two environments and just recognize what you're using. So we've been through the NavStation desktop, we've been through the ENCs, we briefly described the Admiralty information overlay and the route planning functionality and some other bits and pieces. So from that, I'm now going to move on, and I'm going to show the NavStation modules. Well, the modules we've selected today to be able to show are the Navarro Warnings, the e-publication reader, the Admiralty electronic navigational publications, which is the sailing directions, and the ADP. And the reason we're going to show this today is it builds now a simple configuration for NavStation. And for our next webinars, we're going to concentrate on the higher level functions which source data from all of the layers we've talked about today. So I'm going to move across to my NavStation in the same way that Stephen did. So here is my NavStation desktop. And from this point, you can go anywhere. But I'm going to go into the charts and show what I'm looking at. So Stephen has gone through the functionalities and the setup. First of all, I'm going to show you ADP. So ADP is along the bottom. And to access any of the ADP, you just click in what you want to do. So let's say we're going to look at tidal information. I'm going to go in and click into ATT, which is going to now bring up all my tidal stations. And you can see areas of tidal stations on the left-hand side. And you can see all of the tidal stations that have come up within NavStation. As Stephen was describing, you can right-click to interrogate information. So I'm going to now right-click on the tidal station. You see you've got two tidal stations here. I'm going to try taking the full tidal station, and what you get there, first of all, is Chesil Cove. You get the harmonics for the tides. You get the high and low waters, obviously, and it's representing today and forward looking from here, a pure height graph, and some further information which you can delve into. Effectively, this is full total tide we're now dropping into, so you can delve into all the full information on that tidal station. So it's a very powerful tool. Again, the Admiralty data is available directly from NavStation, and the reason being is when you get to passage planning, this is information which can be harvested. Depths of water and tidal flows and currents can be pulled into your passage plan. Digital list of lights works exactly the same way. So I've clicked on digital list of lights, and this now we can right click on a light. Let's have a look at a French light. Okay, and we can look at, which one is this one? Let's have a look at that light. France North Coast, the light is an important light with a range of 10 nautical miles, the location, and also then the full details. The name of the light, the characteristics of the light for very important regions, and further information available for that light. Now, this is where we drop into the full digital product to allow you to do all the work and look at what you're looking for in the light characteristics. So at the bottom here, we've got the digital radio signals, number 2, 6, and 1, 3, 4, and 5. They all work in the same way. Let me drop into and click into 6. And what this shows here is areas. So I'm going to zoom right out now, and it will show the areas. So I'm going to look at UK and Northern Europe. By clicking into that section, I can look at anything I like. So because it is a digital database of information, you can now, again, you can interrogate the position, and you can bring in all the information you need. So by going into it, you bring in the information for the radio signals here at Port Talbot. Again, services available and full details. Further information drops you right into interrogating the digital product from the Admiralty. So that, in effect, I'm not going to go into 2 and 1, 3, 4, and 5. They work in the same way as 6. Obviously, different data, but they work in the same way. So they'll display in the same way. So that's Admiralty digital publications. Next, I'm going to show you what we do with the AENP, which is the sailing and the digital sailing directions. So by clicking on the symbol ENP, we bring up a list of active ENPs in our system. And I would reiterate, this is within our system. So because the Admiralty e-reader is possibly one of the most difficult systems to use on board, it requires manual updating, it requires a lot of massaging to make work. We have incorporated it in. I think we're still the only value-added reseller to have incorporated the data within our own e-reader and our own system. And what we find and we're told by people is that this is a much more stable platform to use other than the original. So you can see here my list of publications that I have licensed. And as Stephen was pointing out, I can actually look at this point for a certificate. By clicking on a certificate, I can find out what I actually have. So I've got a license till next year. And what have I got licensed? Well, I can see my permit expiry dates and what publications I have licensed right here. So it's a very simple but powerful tool. So if we actually want to go into a publication, you can see if I zoom right out, you can see that each publication is marked in a polygon on the chart. But so let's take ourselves to NP57A, which is off of Norway. And this will actually take you to the area. So once you press the publication, it'll take you to the area if you're not already there. If you want to look at the book, I'm going to now click on the book symbol, and it'll take you directly into an e-reader. And what that'll now do is open up a new e-reader, which has opened up beautifully on a different screen, so I can't display it to you. Yes, here we are. So I can display it to you there. So the e-reader, it looks similar to the Admiralty e-reader, and it allows you now to interrogate the volume. And the volumes are tagged and marked up, PDFs exactly the same as that are put out by the Admiralty, but we can zoom to different pages. So you can pull up and you can search, a very powerful search function at the top. You can search and pull the data you require for the sailing directions for the area you're in. So again, I'm in Norwegian waters, so that's where we're going to pull the data for here. So going back to our NavStation, you can see here I've got other volumes. I've got the Mariner's Handbook, and I've also got cumulative notice to mariners here. So there are lots of e-publications that can come through here and actually be useful at back of bridge when planning or passage planning. So that's the e-reader and the Admiralty section. Now I'm going to move on to the e-publication reader, which is a newer section for ourselves. And this is where we put a bookshelf for different titles. So such as IMO and others, we now show in a very similar way to our Admiralty publication reader. You have a symbol for the book itself, which I can click. I'm going to left click on this state and open up the volume. And from this, we should now be able to see, when it loads, there we are, basic documentation. It allows you to bring up all of the information required in one place. It's a very powerful tool for the navigator. You can source what you actually require to be at top level in favorites, and you can also use the search function to find that relevant information that you're looking for. So again, the right place for single information. Going back to the NavStation itself, so we've covered ADP, AENP, the sailing directions, and we've covered the e-publication reader. Let's look at Navarro Warnings now. And if I click on the Nav Area tab at the bottom, what that brings is it now brings point features, area features, and line features for all of the Navarro Warnings. And again, because we're in an actors-like situation, you can interrogate that by right-clicking. By right-clicking here, I've pulled up a list of the objects under my cursor, and I can bring up the details of this nav area warning. It tells me it's in the North Sea and the Norwegian sector. It says in force, which is really important. When I go to details, it actually gives me the full details and the full information about that nav area warning. And again, when we get later into passage planning, which harvests all the lower information, it will actually harvest the in-force nav area warnings and bring that within your compliant passage plan, which is very powerful. So you can see here, the information is fully available. This is a separate layer to NavStation. This is an add-on, but it complements perfectly what's happening. So I'm going to show you, I've shown you one of the point features, which are marked by the symbol with an exclamation mark. I'll show you an area feature, which is this symbology here. It's got a polygon here. So under here, the polygon tells us it's in force again, and it tells us here what actually is going on. It's a seismic survey for an area. So that's the important thing. It gives us full detail, and it's geolocated. So it gives the navigator great confidence that they really know what they're looking at and where the information is coming from. And it's much simpler than just working in the textual format. So we've now covered all of the sections I wanted to go through today. The ADP, the AENP, the e-publication reader, and the nav area warnings. And that builds obviously on what Stephen has covered, which is the configuration of NavStation. It's the ENC charts themselves. It's the AIO, the Admiralty Information Overlay, and also route planning. So we've built up here a pattern of how we use a NavStation, a back of bridge application. I'm going to move on and see, and just give us a summary of what we have seen. So what we're looking at and what we have looked at today is obviously Birger describing why and how we built NavStation, what there was a reason behind it, is to answer a navigational need and a shipping company need. What are the key takeaways? It's a single application for all relevant navigational information, and that's critical. It's automatically updated via Navbox, and that's seamless, so it's on the fly. As you're navigating, everything is kept absolutely up to date. You're seeing the latest charts, you're seeing the latest information, which is critical for good decision making. So that is the takeaway from today.